If you keep getting interrupted in meetings, it does not always mean your idea are weak. Sometimes it means you have not yet learned how to hold the floor. And that is an important difference. A lot of capable professionals, especially thoughtful ones, assume that if their point is good enough, people will naturally listen. But that is not how most meetings work. In real organizations, people interrupt for many reasons. Sometimes they are impatient, sometimes they are anxious, sometimes they are trying to show authority, and sometimes they simply respond to whoever seems most certain in the moment. So, if you often get cut off, it is not always a reflection of your value. It may be a reflection of the meeting dynamic. And once you understand that, you can stop taking interruptions so personally and start handling it more strategically. I've seen this happen many times. Someone starts speaking carefully. They begin with too much setup. They sound tentative. Another person jumps in halfway through, and then, instead of reclaiming the point, the original speaker steps back. The room moves on. What gets lost is not just one sentence. What gets lost is ownership. And in workplaces, ownership matters. If you cannot hold your idea long enough to let it land, people may never fully engage with it. This is when I think many people have learned the wrong lesson. They think, maybe I need to be more aggressive, but that is not always true. You do not necessarily need to become louder or harsher. When, what you need is a stronger entry, a calmer response, and a clearer sense that your voice belongs in the room. This connects deeply with a Taoist idea I return to often. The soft overcomes the hard. Again, soft does not mean passive. It means flexible, grounded, and not easily thrown off center. When someone interrupts you, the instinct is often either to retreat or to harden. But there's a third option. You stay steady. You hold your ground without escalating. That is soft power. So let's talk about how to do that in practice. Here are three ways to speak in meetings without being interrupted, or at least without losing your place when interruption happens. First, start with a point, not the background. This is one of the most important shifts. Many smart people begin by explaining context, but if you begin too slowly, the room decides you are still warming up and someone else enters. Instead, lead with your conclusion. Say, I see one concern with this plan, or I think the key issue is timing, or the main risk here is not cost, it's coordination. This signals that you are making a point, not wandering toward one. Second, use a verbal anchor if someone interrupts you. You do not need to fight. You do not need to apologize. You just need to calmly hold the floor. For example, let me finish one thought, or I want to complete this point, then I'd love to hear your view, or there's one more sentence here that matters. These phrases are simple but powerful. They show that you are not collapsing under interruption. You are staying present. Third, re-enter without emotional leakage. This matters a lot. When people get interrupted, they often come back sounding flustered, defensive, or apologetic. That weakens the point. Instead, come back calm, not angry, not sarcastic, not small, just calm. For example, as I was saying, the dependency between these term teams is the real risk. That kind of re-entry restores authority, and over time, people learn that you are not easy to push off track. This is not about becoming dominant. It is about becoming grounded. And grounded people are harder to interrupt successfully. There is also a deeper leadership lesson here. Meetings are not just places where information gets shared. They are places where status, credibility, and influence are continuously negotiated. So, learning how to speak without being interrupted is not a small communication trick. It is part of leadership development. It is part of learning how to stay centered in a room that may not naturally make space for you. And that is especially important for people who do not want to lead through force. Because if you want to practice soft power leadership, you need to know how to remain soft without disappearing. You need to be clear without being harsh, steady without becoming rigid, and present without leading to dominate. So, if this is something you struggle with, here is what I would encourage you to practice in your next meeting. Start earlier, state the point sooner, and if you get interrupted, do not retreat immediately. Pause, hold the floor, finish the thought, because your voice does not need to become louder to become more powerful. It needs to become clearer, steadier, and more anchored. If you want the deeper essay version of this idea, I've linked it below. Soft power is not about speaking less. It is about speaking in a way that holds. Thank you for watching. See you next time.